Something we do to pretty much boost our revenue without losing clientele is...
So I'm careful about what my job minimum is going to be because I also don't want to scare off the client, but I also don't want to do it too cheap.
Oh, I got Jimmy that does it for $40.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what?
That's not your customer.
You and Jimmy are a great fit for each other.
Yeah. And let me know Jimmy's number so I can hire him to do my stuff.
Yeah. Competition happens at the bottom. Collaborations happen at the top. What's going on, Wash Fam? In today's episode on the Clean Money Podcast, we're going to break down numbers. We're going to break down pricing. A lot of things that get overlooked when you get advice for your pressure washing business. So the episode is called The Profitable Pressure Washer. JR is going to give some input. I'll give some input. Between us, there is a lot of years combined of learning through trial and error. So we're just trying to expedite your process and get you closer to being on track with your numbers with all the knowledge we have learned. So with that said, I don't think he needs an introduction anymore, but this is JR with Sailfish and Deep South Pressure Washing. We are at the Sailfish location, you guys. As you can see, there is plenty of materials, supplies, equipment behind us. If you need anything, come to the store, Southeast Florida, check it out, see if you're close by. And if not, you can get anything online, sailfishspray.com. Shipping to the U.S. and
Correct.
What about outside of the U.S.?
We did. We finally sent out an order to Australia not that long ago, so
Nice.
we're pretty stoked about that. So getting
Good.
there, doing big things.
Good. All right, guys. So if you're out of the U.S., we can make it happen. We're going to jump straight into the first question. You guys, what strategies have you used to increase your profit margins without losing a ton of clientele, JR?
The biggest thing that I found when I'm increasing my strategies is what I try to do is I try to plan out my week as much as possible. So whenever we are scheduling service, I definitely want to try to be in that zip code or in that general area, and I want to line up all of my jobs in that time frame per se. So I'm not jumping from one county to the other, from one side of the county to the other, because time and traffic it eats you up sometimes. And then also you got to think about mobilization. You got to break down and set up on every single job. So you're trying to do the best you can. Obviously, you want to schedule two houses side by side together and whatever. That's probably, the one thing I really key on. So our counties that we cover, I only cover the Tri-County area in our area. I really try to just focus on staying in generalization pockets of it. So Port St. Lucie, I want to be on the west side of Port St. Lucie. If I'm down in Stewart, I want to focus on maybe just South Stewart one time and then North Stewart on another, or South Stewart in the morning, North Stewart in the afternoon, and do 2 or 3 jobs there.
Absolutely.
That's probably my number one that I do.
Yeah, that's good because I don't know if you went through the same thing, but when we were new, like you're just looking forward to that next job and you're not really too focused on your schedule and the route you're taking. Yep. And we would be in one day, we'll be going south,
chasing
down
that dollar.
North, going back where we already were because we scheduled it funky. And
whoever called that day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So now we do, like, we'll go, say we go up to Sebastian Vero, we'll make sure on the way back our jobs are getting hit on the way home or vice versa. But it's easy to forget, like, when you're working, we're not working per hour, but at the end of the day, everything gets crunched down to what you made per hour. And if you're cutting back that time of travel and a lot of little things that can be cut down, you're making more per hour technically. Yeah, so it's a lot of things I want to uncover to cut that time down, be more profitable.
Right. And I would say also too, one of the things you got to think about is the type of services you're doing. So if I know that I have a clean and seal going on that day, I'm one of the guys that will clean and seal all in one day. Not everybody does that, which is fine. If there's sand prep to be done, whatever, obviously it's going to stretch it out a little bit more. But if I'm in an area where I know that I'm going to be clean and sealing, what I'll do is I don't like to do roof washes very first thing in the morning because of the dew that's on the roof. It's a little bit slick, right? So what we'll do is we'll set up like a prep in the morning, do our roof in the afternoon, and then come back to that seal job and hit that sealer, and then whatever, be an exterior or something.
Yeah.
Also too, it all depends on the weather. Here in South Florida, you can set your watch to that storms 2:00 in the afternoon, especially in the summer. So we want to make sure that I want to get done any type of sealing work in the morning if I know it's going to rain in the afternoon, especially if I know I have like a 4 or 5 hour window. And then if I know it's going to rain, I love to do a roof right before the rain, because I don't have to worry about, a ton of neutralizing and everything else, even though we still do it and it's good practice. But, I would say probably that was my biggest thing is I'll plan my day accordingly in the areas of service that I'm working in.
Correct. Yeah, that's huge. And that took us a long time to really dial in. Yeah. But tell me if you do this. Something we do to pretty much boost our revenue without losing clientele is upsells, and we'll get into that because that's something that's overlooked. We talked about it a lot on plenty of the podcast, but there's simple ways. Like upselling is sometimes intimidating to people.
Correct.
But it can be so simple, and if you add a little bit more money to the top of that ticket, you're boosting your revenue for free.
For sure.
Right there.
You're
not paying for that lead twice. You're not doing the interactions twice. But
time is money.
Yeah,
time is 100%. Money. Yeah.
Another thing, we'll get into upsells later because it's involved in another question. But at what point did you start doing a job minimum?
When you get those homeowners that are looking for, can you just clean and seal my back patio? And you look at the back patio, and it's like 175 square feet. It's like, all right, we'll do it, Or they just want they got a letter from the HOA, and they just want their driveway and their sidewalk. It's like, all right, you look at it, it's, 25, 26 foot deep driveway, and your service is $125, $150, for something like that, because it's small property lines. Then you start getting in the minimums. But also, too, I want to try to develop a clientele base, especially if I'm in a gated community where I know that I want to hit multiple locations. So I'm careful about what my job minimum is going to be because I also don't want to scare off the client, but I also don't want to do it too cheap, So again, I think that kind of sort of circles back to the doing areas in service in certain areas. If I have to do that $125, I'm going to make sure that I hit it with something that's going to be more profitable, like a clean and seal job that afternoon or that day, and double it up with a roof. Or I'll do it on a day where I have like a package deal where we're doing a top-down clean, which is what we call a roof exterior and drive-in lanai. So then it sort of makes it worthwhile in a sense because, you got your mobilization. You got to drag out all your hoses, knock on your customer's door. I'm here. Do the work, roll all your stuff back up. You might be hour and a half by the time it's all said and done to do a 30-minute service.
Exactly.
It hits that bottom line a little bit. So we try to, supplement that with bigger jobs.
Of course. Yeah. We didn't lose, just touching base with the question, we didn't lose in the question. It's how to not lose as much clientele, but you're going to lose clientele.
Unfortunately.
So with that minimum, when we started implementing it, and it's low considerably. We're in South Florida, so it has to be a little lower.
Sure.
All these people talk about $300, $400, $500.
Yeah, not down here.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're going to lose a ton of money.
I hate to say it. I hate to burst the bubbles, but we got to grind down here for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And with that said, we're at $150.
Yep.
So if it's tiny driveway, whether it's a tiny driveway or literally your sidewalks, we just have to be there to be profitable because the job is 15 minutes.
Yep.
But driving, got to pay your guy.
Sure.
You got to pay people. You got all this stuff to pay. So the customers that I want to keep anyway are the ones like, oh, I've had a small business. I've been in business. Right. I understand what it takes to be profitable. And then they don't have a fuss about it. They're like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Right.
And typically, like you said, I tell them, we can do an additional service to soak up some of that minimum.
Correct.
Like if you want to add your gutters or something, it'll only be an additional $50 because we're eating up some of that cost.
Correct.
And that's a good upsell point that we'll kind of cover throughout this podcast. But with that said, we did $150. We lost a little bit of clientele to the people that are like, oh, I got Jimmy that does it for $40.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what?
That's not your customer.
You and Jimmy are a great fit for each other.
Yeah. And let me know Jimmy's number so I can hire him to do my stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to, I see this on social media a lot, and I want to stress this to the new guys especially. When you look at veterans, myself, Rusty, guys have been doing this for a long time, do not look at the $150 price tag and go, wow, I would love to make $75 an hour, $80 an hour. Your 150 has to include mobilization. So you have to drive to the job, you have to set up. You're only doing the work for X amount of time, right? So let's call it 45 minutes to do a drive and sidewalk clean. You got to break it all down, collect payment if the customer's there. If not, you got to call, get a credit card over the phone. Also, too, you have to take into account not only your gas, but you need to take depreciation on your truck, your machines, your chemical. I'm a contract cleaner, so I carry my $3 million GL liability policy. I have an umbrella policy, commercial auto, workers' comp for the employees, payroll service, self-employment tax. All of a sudden, that $75 an hour that you think that you're making dwindles down more and more and more. So I want everybody to make sure that they take what their minimum is, because I'm glad you said this, what their minimum is, and actually break it down what your true number is going to be. And you'll be surprised by the time it's all said and done. It's like, oh man, I'm really only doing like $30 an hour,
Exactly.
Maybe I could have did that somewhere else, So that's where we come back to the grind part of it,
Absolutely.
So minimums are essential. Don't get too proud of the minimum, but also make sure that you take in everything into consideration.
Yeah.
So like for depreciation for me, each truck, what we do is I have a set number. We do $28 a day depreciation on that truck, which would be oil changes, brakes, tires, or whatever. So that's per truck. So then I'll look at that truck with one guy on there with gas and everything else, and then I'll start adding in insurance, taxes, income tax, self-employment tax, and all that. All of a sudden, that number got real small. So that's why doing the upsells is key, because if you're going to go there and mobilize, all right, maybe try to talk them into doing like a lanai clean or screen cage clean or trash can area clean or something a little bit more. Or to the neighbor at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the point of this exact episode is understanding your numbers, which with me, I didn't come from a business background. So I learned this as it came to a point in my business a few times.
School the hard knocks way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, you have to adjust something or you're not going to survive. Like, NFL team's not going to win a football game if they're going off a 2012 playbook.
Correct.
And you can't continue to do the same strategies as you grow, because now you have more overhead. Now you have bigger equipment. You have a lot of things that are just adding to that bottom line, and you have to adjust. So with that said, you guys, don't take advice from pricing from someone in a totally different state.
Correct.
It's the most commonly asked question in this industry. What do you price? What do you price? And it's like, don't ask me, because what it takes for me and you to survive is two different numbers. You've crunched your numbers. You know what it takes for your business to survive. And for Jimmy just starting out, he's got no employees.
Correct.
Very minimal insurance. Everything just enough to get by. He can get away with a little cheaper.
Yes.
Not that there isn't a standard in the market in the area, but if it's a few bucks less, that's okay, because he doesn't have this operation that you or I do. So with that said, you guys, get pricing from, if you call 5 to 10 people, I say this all the time, in your area, you are going to get someone that will willingly help you out. Most of them will not want to talk to you. Don't worry about it. Move on to the next one. Call someone and be honest with them. Don't try to pretend you're a homeowner. Just say, hey, I'm getting into the industry.
Right.
I don't want to be screwing up the market. Can you help me with pricing?
Correct.
And let that dictate your pricing, not these Facebook groups, not your family. They don't know. You need to go off your market.
Sure, absolutely.
But
because there's a lot of misleading information in the Facebook groups, but just Florida alone, I mean, we're 550 miles long. And 300 something miles wide. That's a big state to cover, So East Coast versus West Coast, the Naples boys, they're getting a whole different pricing structure than what we're getting over here. And we're getting a pricing structure difference between Miami-Dade and Broward County. They might get paid a little bit more down there, but the clientele is different,
Exactly.
We have a lot of retirees in our area. So they're looking at their 401ks. They're looking at, what they retired with and what have you. And also, too, in North Florida, that's a whole different ball of wax, Not a lot of stucco houses up there, more shingle roofs. So the pricing structures in your area are definitely, and you cannot take advice from the guy that's in northern Mississippi. Because those guys also, we have a full year-round season, so our price is a little bit cheaper.
Exactly.
Everybody else has to shut down for a month or two, or 3 if you're up in Jersey, New York area, upstate. Yeah, I mean, they're getting higher prices because they have 8-9 months out of a year to grind and get it all done, and then they're plowing snow.
Yeah.
So it's every market's a little bit different. You have to like literally get it down to the county. So yeah, ask around, and then that will double onto a networking thing, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of opens up the doors for some other avenues especially for the new guys, small guys.
Yeah. And again, you guys take this advice as if you're sitting there kind of struggling and you're barely getting by and you're working 5 days a week and something's just not adding up, it's not what you pictured, you need to start adjusting. And the sooner you do it, the better. So if you're in that spot, just take this advice and start planning. It's coming from experience from us. For me personally, I've been in that boat. I'm like, hey, I'm working 5 days a week. There's not much more I can do.
Yeah.
So something's got to change.
Sure.
And then when we switched that, everything got much better. So this episode is to help you guys out with this scenario. But we'll move on to the second one. What common pricing mistakes do you see in the industry, and how can someone avoid them?
Oh, first thing comes to mind, race to the bottom pricing.
Yeah.
God, does that drive me insane? Everybody's trying to be just a little bit cheaper than the next guy, and it hurts the industry in general. And yeah, everybody's hungry, right? And they're all trying to get the next one. But again, it goes back to your minimums. If you start cutting your minimums down to, $25 off a service, $50 off a service, these guys are doing the $39 driveway cleans and all that. It's like, holy cow. It's like, it costs me more than that to wake up in the morning,
Yep.
So it's, you have to literally take into account every single dollar. Now, when you're small, when you're a small business, obviously you have a smaller GL and all that. So your cost to operate is a lot smaller, right? So that race to the bottom pricing might be a little bit different for the owner-operator who's only doing small residential, because you have to have minimum GL is $300,000. You might not have to have commercial auto on there if you don't put signage and stuff on your vehicles. So I would say, that race to the bottom pricing is probably where most people get hung up, because they just want to be a little bit cheaper than the next guy, especially if you're in a gated community.
Exactly.
I keep stressing that because we're in a lot of gated communities in this area, and that's where most of my work is. On the new construction contract cleaner side. So we, and I have to be competitive because there's 3 or 4 other subcontractors that are all competing for my job. So we just kind of use our name and our reputation to hold us through, and I might be a touch higher than everybody else, but the builders kind of take into consideration for that.
Yeah.
We got some stuff going on.
Down goes one boot. That's okay. 6 left, 7 left.
There we go.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, because there's so many people that have reached out to me like, hey, man, I'm trying to be competitive with pricing, and I'm losing so many jobs and this and that. And it's like other things, there's other variables in there that need to be adjusted other than the bottom line pricing. And I give this advice to so many people because me and you can compete having a higher price because of our credibility.
Correct.
Because of our knowledge.
Our standard is higher.
Exactly.
Sure.
And we can very easily display that to a new client rather than a new pressure washer, because I'm sure you remember, it's like you're super nervous, your sales experience is super low, and you just don't have what it takes. So there's other ways to adjust your credibility, and one is through your estimates. Be very detailed, look very professional. If you don't have a CRM, just get a cheap or free one so you can slap your logo on there.
Right.
And do these little things to boost your credibility. But racing, like you said, racing to the bottom is, if we had 20 washers in the area, which we do, and we all had a meeting. Plus. And we all had a meeting and say, hey, stick here. In an ideal world, customers would have to pay what everyone's asking for. But again, this is never going to happen.
Right.
I tell this to everyone. The next day, someone will be like, hey.
The one-off.
Hey, let's go charge 20 cents per square foot less, and we'll start getting all of them.
And we get all the business. And that's a mentality, and unfortunately. But I'm glad you mentioned CRM because, that part of that race to the bottom pricing and what we talked about a little while ago, understanding what your cost to operate is, your bottom number, to have a CRM that will provide you some type of a P&L report so you can truly figure out where your cost is across the board, and they'll take an average, and you get averages for 7 days a week, 30 days. You can do a 6-month forecast on there. So the right CRM also will give you that, and just follow the reports. Remember too, you have to put in the good information into the CRM. So don't look at it and be like, all right, well, it cost me $20 in bleach to do this roof, and I charge $600 for the roof and all that. You give them your true cost of goods in there. You know what your gas to get there, everything.
Yep.
Then you can get a factor of what that is. So you let your CRM give you feedback, so you can adjust the pricing as well at the same time.
Correct.
Yep.
All right, guys. Quick repair on a trailer. JR is still technically on the clock, but it is perfectly fine. We like being literally in the environment when we're doing the podcast.
Appreciate you. Appreciate the free labor you keep volunteering too.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime. So we covered the second bullet point, you guys. What common pricing mistakes do you see in the industry, and how can someone avoid them? We pretty much covered it. With the experience that we both have, we've covered our main issues with pricing. And just to quickly recap on that, I wanted to add, when pricing and racing to the bottom, like Jared was talking about, I wanted to say earlier, it's going to set you back ultimately, whether you think you're winning by landing that bid for $50 and it's a big ticket job and you underbid it by $400. You're getting that money, but in the long run, and we had an issue with this because I had very little help on pricing in the beginning, is now you're stuck with this clientele that you were so cheap for.
Sure.
And it's like, when you do raise your prices, it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
How'd you just increase by 50% over a year?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then you got to explain we couldn't survive. We had to change our business model. And you're going to lose quite a few of them. But that's okay. You're not chasing that same clientele anymore.
Well, you not only that clientele, but then all their neighbors too, because it's like, oh man, Rusty came over and did it for this price, and next thing you know, you're doing 5 neighbors, and you got to figure out how to raise your price on 5 neighbors all right there. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's a world of hurt that you can just avoid by sticking to your guns. Like we talked about, do other techniques to raise your credibility if you are new, to get some skin in the game and not just look like a rookie throwing out random numbers, throwing out the highest bid, and people don't know your name. People know our name when we're rolling up to the job for the most part, because a lot of our work is from the neighbors, like you said.
Referrals, organic.
Exactly. So for the most part, people know who we are before we get to their property.
And I get it. Guys got to pay their bills, and it's hard to talk out of both sides of the mouth, because I was that guy and I learned the hard way, and you did the same thing. You got bills to cover, you got to put gas in the truck, got to keep mama happy, you got to put food on the table, kids to feed. So I get it. It's just, when you're starting off a business, it's hard to get past the 1 week forecast, a 2 week forecast. You have to really look at it with a 6-month forecast, 1 year, where I want to be at in 5 years.
Exactly.
So it only hurts you 5 years from now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
And it is rough to get out of that patch and kind of adjust your business model.
Sure.
But it's doable.
It is doable.
Like you said, me and you did the same thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people price low in the beginning, whether they want to admit it or not.
You have to.
Yeah.
I get it.
You got to do what you got to do, especially when, like for me, I at a certain point just quit my other job, had no other income, and this had to work out.
Yep.
And I've said it plenty of times, right when COVID hit is when I did this, and right when we had our first baby girl.
Yeah.
So I was like backed in a corner, and I had to make it work. So I did accept super low bids. Oh, you don't want to do that for that price?
Yeah.
Name your price.
Yeah.
We'll be out there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we made it happen, but it will bite you in the butt down the road. But the third question, I'm super excited to ask you this one, is how can you improve profit margins without raising prices?
Obviously, buying in bulk is probably the best. I want to make sure if I'm going, if I have to travel 20, luckily for us, I have the store now, right? But before that, you got to travel a little bit to get to the pressure cleaning store. You got to travel a little bit to go get bleach and all that. So buying in bulk would be ideal. I would say, probably also too, one of the biggest things with buying in bulk is, don't look at it as I'm just trying to buy 100 gallons. I'm trying to look at what my forecast is going to be. So I know that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I have a roof job each day. And if I'm going to drive to the other side of town, I'm going to try to get as much bleach as I possibly can if I can fit it all in one. But if I know that I have a 200-gallon tank and I'm going to need 80 gallons of bleach to do these 2 jobs, I'm just going to go ahead and get the extra bleach that I need to do the third job. Now I have to drive back across town.
Absolutely.
So buying bulk and buying smart,
Yeah.
would probably be my biggest thing. One of the biggest things that kills us out in the field is how many times we've been working on a Friday at 2:00 and your hose breaks. And you got to stop what you're doing. You got to finish the job because it's getting ready to be Saturday. People got to take off. They're going to dinner or whatever. You're trying to get that check. And so I want to make sure that when I buy in bulk, I have a backup hose on the trailer. So spending a little more now will save you in the future of breaking down, mobilizing, driving to the store to get it, which could be on the other side of town to get another hose. Bleach, it came up short on bleach. It's like, I was trying to cut it close, exactly. So it's like, now you got to take off all your, how many of us have soft wash hoses that are all on disconnects? They're not.
Yeah.
So you got to reel it all back up, pull the ladder back down because you can't leave the ladder hanging on the side of the house.
And now you're not even anywhere near your bleach supplier.
Correct.
You're 30 minutes away.
And hopefully they're still open by the time you get there.
Exactly.
So, buying in bulk and buying smart, forecasting your jobs, I would say that's where I started picking up a lot of my time because time is money. And if I'm on the road picking up supplies every single day, and you get stuck in traffic or whatever the case is, it adds up. Yeah. And the gas.
Yeah. We again, you guys, it's not, there's not a system that we're going to explain because it doesn't exist, but the system that we are explaining is we've crunched our numbers, and when you add up $5-10 a day on little things like this, and sometimes even $20, $30, $40 mistakes, if you're doing that weekly and you look at your net and profit loss and everything at the end of the year, and you see, wow, I did this $30 mistake at least twice a week.
Right.
You add that up, it's a lot of money, and things like that can be adjusted to where at the end of the year, if you're conscious about it, now the next year, you saved $5,000,
sure.
$10,000 somewhere, and unless you have your numbers absolutely crunched down to a system, which a lot of us don't, and I'm guilty of struggling in different areas, but I am conscious of it, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and not from the job, from your own self.
Right.
And you're ultimately throwing money away. And by doing the materials things, like I can't tell you how many times when we would take these jobs 40 minutes away and we would have 100 or less square feet of a roof to clean.
Yeah.
And I'm out there with a pump sprayer, like just trying to finish it with the little bit of bleach I have
sucking out
left.
every little life you have in it,
Because
you're willing to bust out the pressure cleaner just to do that last section.
I'm guilty of that, 100%. One of my biggest jobs with my wife was a nice, big mansion roof. And how many times I went to the bleach supplier on the job that I didn't account for. I don't even want to admit it on camera.
Yeah.
But now we plan ahead. Like you said, you see me, I'll pick up materials from here, pick up Uraseal, what we have for, 1 to 2 weeks out.
Sure. Yeah.
So that way I'm not stopping here. Granted, it's not a far drive from my house, but we're not coming here, wasting 30 minutes with the drive, with the fuel, with the time.
Time is money.
Yeah, we have it all ready to go for the week or two. That way I'm stopping here ideally once or twice a week. And another thing I want to touch base with the extras on the truck. A lot of people ask me, well, what do you carry? What do you carry? That's going to look different for me and you. And this is the best way I could explain it. Just do your system, do your operations. And then when you notice you're kind of running through something, then you realize if you're a 12-volt guy, okay, I need 2 backup pumps on the truck. I need, pressure hose is pretty much for anyone if you're in this industry. But aside from the main things that are very obvious, me and him are in the same industry, but what he's going to have a lot of extras of is a lot different than me.
Correct, yeah.
And you'll learn that over time. So when you guys start picking it up, hey, this broke once a month. This breaks every 3 months.
Yeah.
Get a general idea. Have that stuff as backup.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, and it gets to a point, too, where you got to be careful you don't put too much so you're loaded down all the time. But, you got to have backup for all that stuff.
Yeah, I've got 0 room left between the bed of my truck and my trailer.
Yeah, you can outgrow a rig real quick, And then your gas mileage goes down because you're hauling so much stuff. But, you're right. That comes with time. As you're working your rig and you get, a month or 2 in, you realize, okay, I need to carry extra O-rings. I need a couple extra quick connects and plugs. The hoses, 2 pumps for 12-volt guys. But, unfortunately with these gas systems, you're stuck a little bit because, once it goes down, that's it. And you're coming to me to come get it fixed, because there's not too much you can do on there. But, pressure cleaners, you have an extra unloader on there just in case one takes a dump on you and you're 45 minutes away or it's Friday at 4 o'clock and you're trying to finish the job, I was like, I cannot go back to
Yeah.
the store and do that,
And between the pressure washer and the gas soft wash, I'm glad you brought that up. You can't, as you can replace a lot of the Comet P40 parts.
Yep.
You can almost you can rebuild the pump with
Yep.
replacement parts.
Yep.
And that's how I learned personally to rebuild a P40 was because I would break down and I'm like, I'm stuck out here with,
SOL.
like you say,
Yeah.
with your pants on the ground.
Yeah.
And I just started taking it apart and then learned the whole pump. And now I have backup parts, the main ones of the P40. Granted, the one we just replaced, it was time for a whole new pump.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if you guys start taking apart your equipment, like when something breaks and you're not doing the job anyway and you're going home because it's broken, take it apart yourself. That's how I learned to work on my plumbing, my machines, so much stuff like 12 volts I mastered because they were literally taken apart piece by piece.
Right.
And I knew what had to be replaced. I knew what I needed. And that's a great way to save money as well.
Sure.
Is if it's a small, simple repair, you can do it yourself.
Right.
And it'll save you time and money.
That is a great segment, because I want to answer that in two parts. Knowing your equipment, and obviously that will increase your profitability because if you can fix it yourself, now pressure hoses you can't fix yourself, right? But if you can change out your own pump or whatever, you're saving some time there.
Yep.
But the second half of that, which would be the second half of my answer, is as you get more familiar with pressure cleaning and you are really dialing in not only your systems, but what you're cleaning. So when you roll up to a job and you look at it and you go, especially on the estimate side, and you're like, all right, this is probably going to be a 3% roof. This is going to be, I might not have to post-treat this driveway when I'm all done with it because it's in pretty decent shape. So once you know what you're cleaning, how you're cleaning it, that will also help you dial it in. So you're not, overusing too much degreaser on oil stains for a prep. You're not, if the driveway doesn't necessarily need an effluent treatment on it, multiple things. Yeah. There's not saying that you're trying to need to cut out certain things, but once you start dialing in, what the stains are, what it is you're cleaning, how you're cleaning it, a plan of attack, really that's when you really start dialing in not only your timeliness, but how you're estimating the jobs. I know it's going to take me X amount of hours to do this. It's going to be X amount of chemicals. I probably, you don't want to overestimate it a little bit on it. So you try to come in a little bit less. But I would say probably, knowing what you're cleaning and your plan of attack, that's how you start dialing in your bottom line number.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And you'll learn that as you go, you guys. It'll become robotic, the system to you, whether you're doing a paver seal prep, a driveway cement wash, a roof wash. You're going to notice, like what you're saying, you're going to notice exactly how much you're using, what you can do to save. Like when we started using a proportioner system, that right there saved us so much money.
Absolutely. Versus batch mixing,
Yeah, when batch mixing was like kind of the only option besides a downstreamer, sometimes you had to use 6% on things that you didn't want to because you got a roof mix in your tank and now you got to pre-treat the driveway. And that was your only option.
Yeah, and the thing with batch mixing is, your mix as you get down to the bottom of the tank is, SH and water, they mix well, but sometimes you get highs and lows in the tank, right? So, get down to the end of the tank and you just happen to be on the dirty part of the roof that you're coming off of.
Yep.
Your mix is way weak. You start off at 6 and you might be coming off the roof with like a 2.5. That's the downside of batch mixing versus having a metering system on there. Yes, the metering system has its own set of struggles and all that. You got check valves and a block that go bad and valves that go bad and all that. But you're right. Once you start dialing it in, you get the right equipment for the job. I mean, look at when you went from a 4-gallon to an 8 to a 10.
Exactly.
It's like, holy cow, how much faster can I clean with my machine that's $2,500 more than my 4-gallon?
Yeah.
But if I'm moving twice as fast, in 1 year, that 10-gallon's paid for itself.
Exactly.
So, dialing in what you're cleaning, how you're cleaning it, your plan of attack. And again, this circles back to getting the right CRM that gives you a P&L report. And, I call it the garbage in, garbage out method. Make sure you dial in your CR. You tell your P&L what it is that you're using for that job because it's only going to give you back the information that you put into it, right? In a forecast model.
Yep.
So if you don't tell it every single little thing about that job or that day that you use, your forecast is going to be off just a little bit. Forecast and your true bottom line.
Yeah.
Which also goes back to your taxes.
Yeah. I like what you said earlier when you hear people talking and they're like, oh, we're making this on the roof and we're only spending $30 in bleach.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can tell someone didn't crunch their numbers.
Yes, exactly.
Because you're spending a lot more than $30 to complete that job for the day.
Yeah.
Whether it's you by yourself or your crew or you with a guy, it is a lot more than bleach.
Yeah.
And something I want to touch base on before we move out of this segment, well, it kind of ties into the next one. Share a groundbreaking moment in your business that dramatically increase your revenue. So I'll answer this one first.
Sure.
Is, like you were saying, equipment.
Yep.
So that's a huge way to make more money per hour, you guys. Like going from a 4 to 8. I talk to guys all the time. They're like, hey, man, I got a 4 GPM. Is it really worth it to go to the 8? And that is like one of the best upgrades you can do in this business.
Amen.
Your cleaning unit's double. So you're technically almost working, like you said, twice as fast, completing these jobs in half the time. But everything we have on our trailer and our equipment, the Maverick lids, it is to be done with a service quicker. We're not sacrificing our results. We're not sacrificing anything. We're just paying more money to make future money back a lot quicker. And that was groundbreaking. That's my number one thing.
Sure.
Where like you can save. Yeah, it's an investment in the beginning, and whether you got to save up, finance it, whatever the case may be. We're not going to dive into that right now. But get that better equipment, and you're going to be set up to make a lot more per hour without changing any structures, any systems. That alone is going to make you more money.
And one thing real quick for the new guys that are out there, you mentioned the word cleaning unit, so I'll explain that real quick. Cleaning unit is a scientific measure of how we are judging how big our machine is. So you take the gallons per minute times the PSI. That gives you a cleaning unit. Obviously, the higher the cleaning units, now you can go down on PSI, but if you're doubling that in GPMs, you're getting more cleaning units out of that machine. So GPM times PSI, that's a cleaning unit.
Gotcha.
Yep.
That's something I don't know if, do you remember Brian Gove?
Sounds familiar.
He was in this industry a long time ago. He quit before I even started.
Okay.
But I'll show you a picture later. He's a really cool guy. We knew his family. They moved to Tennessee, but he was like explaining cleaning units to me when I was new. And I was like, dude, I'm struggling.
Over my head.
Yeah. I'm struggling understanding this right now.
Let's not throw science into this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when I advanced and, it just started making more sense. It's not a measurement that a lot of people go off of, but it's good to know because I believe it's like technically if you take a 4 GPM, 4,000 PSI, 8 GPM, you're doubling the cleaning units.
Yeah.
And there's other factors that with both machines you don't really advance time in.
Correct.
So it's not exactly doubled in actual time per hour, you know, but it is very close. Yeah. And it is an insane time saver for your business.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, and the problem is, and I'm spoiled on one of our, trucks. We have 2 10-gallon units. And even when I go to the other truck and out there and it's got an 8-gallon 690 on it, it's like, I feel like I'm walking compared to running, with the 8, just between an 8 and a 10.
Exactly.
So a lot of times once you get to an 8, you're like, you don't realize how fast you can clean, not only how fast you clean, how well I can clean, especially when it comes to like wet sanding, for instance. You want GPMs on that, not pressure. So, and I'm dialing down my throttle a little bit. I'm trying to get my PSIs down. And you're moving so much quicker. Yes, you're spending more for that machine. Yes, it takes bigger rigging to get all that, and you need more water to run it. But boy, what a difference it is. And when I test some of these small 4-gallon units, it's like I feel like I'm using a Ryobi pressure cleaner sometimes because I'm like, man, is this thing working right? Oh, I'm used to my 10-gallon, I'm not used to this 4.4, So
I thought when we just repaired that machine as a 4.
Yeah.
And I was spraying, I'm like,
what's wrong with this thing?
Here?
Yeah.
But
is this a 12 volt?
I remember I had to rent a machine one time when I was newer. My 8 was down, and I went and rented a 4. And I was like, I'm better off giving this job to someone because I'm just losing money now. Yeah. Or at least it felt like
you forget how to move that slow, but in the beginning with 4,000, when you're running a 40/40, in the beginning it's like, oh man, this is a lot of PSI on this, and I would never need anything more than that. And then once you get feeling somebody's 5.5 and 8, 10, it's a difference. And that's why Mike down there at Hilo, he does so well with his stuff. He's twinning some of these 17s on those AR pumps. he's getting massive. Now, it makes a man out of you, too, when you're all done, because it takes a lot of oomph to hold one of those. But, Mike will tell you, it's all about, it's the whole reason why it's called high-low. The more GPM you get, the faster you clean.
Absolutely.
Yes, it takes big water to have that, but you're cleaning faster. So you look at it like, all right, well, I'm not really going to put a 500-gallon tank on there. But if I can clean that driveway in 7 minutes versus 30 minutes, did you really need that much more water?
Exactly.
So it's 6.5, one dozen the other.
Yeah.
But time is money, and that goes back. And if you can get the job done sooner, that gives you more time to be on the ground, boots on the ground, selling jobs. So you're planning for week 2, week 3, week 4.
Correct.
The next 3 months.
Exactly.
Your forecast.
Yeah. And if you guys are new to the industry, new to the podcast, in this industry, everything is about flow, high GPMs. PSIs matter to an extent. You need a certain PSI to clean certain surfaces, but 2,000, 3,000, the max you're ever going to use. It starts coming down to that GPM on the machine.
Correct.
And high-low solutions, they know what they're doing.
Yep.
Just like you, they were they were a washer before they ever sold anything.
Correct.
And that's why great products come from you and him, is because you actually know what we're needing, what we want advanced. And it's a lot different than someone coming into the industry, retail side. Oh, let's stock up these pumps. It's like, we do need those here and there, but everyone has them. What's some innovative stuff that we can get, like some of the brackets from C3? It's like, that's the stuff that I'm like, this is cool. Because now my surface cleaner is taking up, 1 square foot instead of like the back half of my trailer.
I mean, Casey's a perfect example. He grew up in the industry. He knows exactly what it needs. And Casey's always thinking constantly. So, what can I do to make this a little better? What can I do to make it look cleaner? What can I do for serviceability? It's not only we're looking for the creme de la creme. We're looking for something that works and you can adjust on the fly, you can fix on the fly, because everybody's going to get leaks. I don't care if you buy the $10,000 machine or the $1,500, it's going to leak at some point in time, And so innovators like Casey and Mike Arnone, it's like these guys, Mike with paver and pressure perfection, he's been doing it for a long time. He knew what the industry was lacking, so then he sold off the businesses. Garfield took it running. I forgot the guy that bought pressure perfection, but they took off the company and allowed him to innovate some more. And look what he's doing. I mean, he's killing it out there, and he's given us something that we might not necessarily known that we needed, but now that he's brought that to the table, it's like, oh, you're right.
Exactly.
And look at, what he's doing. So it's, I'm thankful for those guys. We're all in the same business, right? We're all, in a sense, competing against each other, but it's that networking thing, which is kind of what we touched on earlier. It's, Mike offers something that I can't offer. Casey offers something, and then I can do the same for both, and it's, I would say it's probably one of the things that's real cool about this industry. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing as your game plan changes with your own personal things. And then as you upgrade, you can now be able to do commercial HOAs. You can start doing, plazas at night and what have you. So,
Yeah, my dream trailer looked a whole lot different 6 years ago than it does now. And I'm changing. I've been in this for a long time. I cut the grays off before this podcast. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm forever. We're getting ready to tear down the flatbed, and there's things I'm changing on it just because I'm not quite happy with it, and we just keep messing with it and tuning it in. And there's no such thing as the perfect rig, but I can get damn near close to it. Exactly. Within the last 2 years, man, especially like through my 7 years of studying the industry, the last 2-ish. Have been like with high-low coming out, with these companies that are people from the industry, from the wash side, and they're like, I can make this. And like you said, you're like, I didn't know I needed that, but I dang sure need that now.
It goes everywhere, and it even goes to the chemical side on the sealer, You got to, we're going to try to schedule this podcast probably sometime the end of March. I'm not sure if I talked to you about it or not, but we're going to get Ryan and Steve from ICT and get them in here, and we'll blurb the Urasil HV coming soon.
I've teased it a little bit.
Tease it a little bit, and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that I can really improve on Urasil that much more. But here was the answer to our gem and Tremron pavers. HV has it. So thank God for people like Ryan and Steve and Alex and everybody on the backside of the table over there.
Yeah.
Their guys are killing it. They're constantly innovating. It's not stuck in a rut with the same thing over and over and over again. Then all of a sudden your profit dollars start going up because then you can start increasing your price to be able to offer something like that, with next gen and everything else.
Yep. This is not paid promotion, you guys.
Yes,
but that's
not
why
paid, yeah.
I love Uraseal, ICT, Innovative Concrete Technologies. I tell you guys that's the only sealer we use. We're having, the hiccup with applying the nano enhanced rung is user error.
Yep.
Not a big deal. It sucks, but things like this happen in business.
Sure.
But Ryan has been consistently reaching out to me, trying to find solutions, sending me sample sizes of stuff. That's what matters to me in the industry is
support.
Things like that. I'm not looking for the next best sheen. If you see a little better sheen on this product, that's cool and all, but is that company going to last?
Right.
Are they helping you when it comes down to time where no one knows a resolution or no one knows a solution?
Yep.
Are they going to be there for you? And from the beginning of using ICT, they've been there every single time, more than I can ask for.
And that company is developed in South Florida for our particular environment that's down here. ICT, we talked about this. It might not be the perfect sealer for every situation, but boy, they got really dialed in for us down here. And, not saying that I don't care about the rest of the market, but I really care about mine. And they got it figured out. And that's why we use, and I'm not a name brand basher by any means, but some of the new guys that are coming to the market, I give them time. I want to see what the 1 and 2 year looks to. Yeah, they look all fancy and shiny now, and they might have, capitalized on a few things and what have you. And they do really good marketing and all that. But, I want to see the long-term effect. Because I'm not selling a customer just for that paver seal job. I'm selling a customer for 10 years.
Yeah.
I want to reseal that every 2 years.
Exactly.
I want to clean the roof every 5 years. And I want to do all their neighbors too. So if I can keep now and doing the same thing over and over, I don't have to keep changing brands and all that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to stick with. And,
Yeah, that's what we did. We went and tried. We just got to a point where let's try this. Let's try that. Let's find the next best thing. This can help us in sales. And it's after a year of doing all this, I'm like, okay, you had something that's already been working. It's had proven results. Maybe someone, like you said, did come out with a better sheen, and you don't know how long it lasts. But let's go back to what's been working for a long time. Probably never any hiccups. Not being user error. Product side, there's been batches that have been, but that's noticeable before the job is worked on.
Sure, yeah.
But that's going to happen with anyone.
Every brand.
Yeah, and other than that, it's 99.99% of the time, great results. No callbacks. Super happy customers.
Absolutely.
So stick with it, and that's what we did. We're let's stop dealing with headaches.
Stick with what you know and stick what's been around. I mean, there's been a reason. Alex will probably kick me in the shin for this, but I think 92 is when he started ICT.
Okay.
94. He's going to be bashing me on Monday for this.
That's when I was born, by the way. You can kick me in the shin.
Really. Obviously Alex been doing it for a minute. He's figured out something. So we're 35 years later. He's really, he's killing it. But there's a reason why he's around, and he doesn't come and go like some of these other companies are. They start up, and boy, 5 years later, gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I've used products when we went through that phase that don't even exist anymore.
Yep.
But huge shout out to Innovative Concrete Technologies. You guys, you always ask what product I'm using. I'll link it down in the video description so you can check out their lineup of sealers and cleaners. I want you to answer this one before we move on.
Okay.
What's the groundbreaking moment where you dramatically increased your revenue? I know it's all kind of revolving around the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's why I want to dive deep into one specific conversation.
So we talked about in the first podcast, obviously most of the time when you're starting off owner-operator and then your first employee is either a friend or a family member or something like that. But I guess really the key word is employee. So once you find a really good guy to help you with something. I'm blessed because my son-in-law is just taking the ball and run with it. And I pulled him out of an industry that he knew nothing, in this at all. It doesn't come from a pressure crane background, whatever. And he's took the ball and run with it. And I've surrounded myself with other employees that have, no experience, no bad habits they brought to the table. I was able to teach all good habits and start fresh and all that. And thank God I have the A team that I do to be as successful as where we're at right now. But So the key word is employee. So if you find a really good guy or girl that will do things the way you do it, kill it and grind the way you do it, and you're taking care of them and all that, that allows you to not necessarily step away from it, but allows you to get back into a sales role. Mm-hmm. So now I have time where I can set him up on a roof job or a seal prep. Doesn't necessarily need me to stand there. Yeah. Now roof's a different story. We are a 2-person operation on roofs. Yeah. I will not take anything less of an answer for that just because of the hazards that are involved with it. My insurance is too expensive to begin with. I ain't trying to make that go up any higher than what it is. So, but preps, exteriors and paver preps and all that, where I can go out and I can sell a job, or if I can start doing door knocking, on the neighbors, let them know what we're getting ready to do, pay attention what the end result is. I'm not going to sell you right now. I want you to let the job sell itself. Then, now you're starting to build that 1-year plan, the, 2-year, 5-year plan. This is where I'm going to go. Which allows you, sales is everything, right? So we can't just keep washing every single day and not expect you plateau at some point in time. So you got to be able to grow and step outside of your comfort zone a little bit. And also, too, on the innovation side. So, if you take time out and you start going out and you're researching, you're talking to the developers of the pumps and whatever, going to the trade shows and you see what's coming out next, then it allows you also to plan for the future. This is what I want to do. I'm going to switch from my enclosed trailer build. I might go to a truck skid, or I might go from my flatbed build into an enclosed trailer, or whatever the case is. Yep. That turning point is finding a good guy to help you run the company so you can focus on the actual business development part of it.
100%.
A lot of us don't have that in the beginning. I didn't have that in the beginning, and I didn't know, I was stuck with my 40/40 and a small pressure cleaner and 12-volt pump, and I didn't realize all this other stuff existed because I wasn't out there looking for it. Yeah. Hit 1 or 2 trade shows, it's like, whoa, I am so far behind the times, it's not even funny, Exactly. And then all of a sudden, my profits start going quick. Yeah. We're having the best of the best. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to spend $20,000 on the biggest, baddest machine, but I know where my next step is, and I know where I want to plan in the future. Yeah. So, turning point: surround yourself with good people. Also, too, I'm a big fan of surround yourself with good people and allow that person to do his job. So don't get in the way of that. The micromanaging part of it, I say, is probably where you lose a lot of money, because if I'm there micromanaging somebody, I'm not out selling. I'm not out working on a second job. We got 2 rigs going now. Yeah. So when you surround yourself with good people, get out of their way and let them do their job. Yeah. My painters, the same thing. I got great painters that work for me. We set it up. We walk the job, whole 9 yards, talk to you at 4 o'clock, and then we'll talk about what the next day is going to be.
That's good.
And they kill it. They absolutely kill it. And I don't have to babysit them.
Exactly.
Call me if you need something. Yeah. And it's not me just dropping off guys and setting them up. I just have good crews. This is what they want. They don't want me there, right? Because whenever there's 2 or 3 people watching, like when your homeowner's watching you, that's when everything goes wrong. When your boss is there watching you, everything goes wrong. Yeah. So I just, I hire good people. I learned that from an old timer who taught me how to do my taxes. Hire good people and get the hell out of their way.
Yeah. That's good. I just did a Zoom call with Austin Davis. That'll be posted after this one. There's just so much stuff in the pipeline for content. But Austin was saying, he's like, dude, if you find a guy that does 80% of a job, 80% as good of a job as you do, sure, your customer will still be 100% happy.
Absolutely.
And that's so major, because when you guys get to this point, if you're not there yet, of hiring people, JR's advice is what everyone says. So, with everyone saying the same thing, it obviously means something. Getting those employees to really help you out, free up your time. But my mindset changed completely when I had time to take a breath, of fresh air, and not be in the truck thinking about the actual service, thinking about on-the-field stuff. Like, everything twisted for me when Chris was able to. You guys know Chris. When he was able to start running things by himself, and I help him a lot. We're both out there. I'm working on a second employee, but with that said, if I have a big estimate, if I have a meeting to go to, something important, I can finally physically be there and put my effort into that. Yeah. And then you can see the outside of your business. You can see from the outside and not just be in your business. You can be running it from the outside. Right. So it's like, what do I got to do for marketing? What do I got to do for equipment? What do I got to do for preparation? Yep. And not just have all these thoughts running through your mind in the morning when you're on the way to a job, and you really don't have time to think about it.
Also, too, it circles to a third part of this that most people won't talk about, but we're both family-oriented. One of the things when you hire good people, now it allows you not only to go out and sell and try to be innovative and look, see what, but also helps you work on your family life a little bit. So the happy wife, happy life thing, right? So, Jess gets to see her husband a little bit more. Your girls get to see their daddy a little bit more. You can go see that play that you normally probably would have had to skip from school. Whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Also, too, so when your home life starts getting a little bit better because you have a little more time to focus on things, vice versa, it goes with the employee. They got a home life as well. So if you can cover them so they can go to the dentist, right, or do whatever, then you have happy people, happy marriages, happy families, and then, everything, again, starts clicking and falls into place. It helps you grow as a person, as a business owner, as a company in general. If you can, once you get a good person in there, that's where my turning point was. Then I can start working on my relationships with my family and my friends, things that I've been missing out because I've been grinding nonstop, and it's like, my wife's like, all right, enough already. How much money can we possibly make? It's like, let's do me and you, now. So, and then it allows us to get little mini vacations in or whatever, and everybody can cover each other. And again, it goes back to the employees. Make sure you take care of your guys because they're people too. They're not just a number on a piece of paper,
Exactly.
They have wives and kids and all that.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
Then I get to go, see my grandbabies at school and get to go to Legoland and all those other things.
And the grinding part that you're talking about, that's necessary, you guys. Like me and you went through, I mean, we still do grind all the time, but we both go through seasons where it is grind time. And, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, businessman,
sure,
you're going to be going through those seasons. But again, that's where my personal life took a shift. And when the entrepreneur lifestyle was actually worth it, is when I could hire someone, have the funds to do that, support his family, and then take a step back
and work on your own
and work on my family, my relationships. That's when it was like, because they say, you quit your 9 to 5 working 40 hours to go work 80 hours,
exactly.
which is so true.
Go God, you ain't kidding.
And it doesn't feel like it's worth it at that point. You're like, I'm working more and making less.
My old lady's pissed off at me. Yeah.
So when you get that time back, that's when, to me, the entrepreneurial lifestyle, not that I don't grind just as hard, it's just in other areas.
Correct.
But that's when it started to pay off for me. All right, fourth and final bullet point here, you guys. I want to ask JR to share one piece of advice that you wish more washers knew when starting this business, and then I'll put my input after you.
So one of the things I've learned to do is two parts of this. So I follow the weather like nobody's business between having 2 or 3 different apps. I watch the news in the morning. This way it helps me plan not only my day, but my week. So when I'm getting phone calls where customers need this, I can know without even looking at the calendar, all right, the end of this week's going to rain. I might not be able to squeeze in that drive seal. I might do it the week after. So I follow the weather like religiously multiple times a day. Again, South Florida.
It's my most used app.
Pretty much. Between I use Black Cloud and AccuWeather. Those are the two that I like the most. My golf clientele pushed me to the Black Cloud, and that one's pretty accurate.
Nice.
AccuWeather works real well. The ones that come with on the iPhones and all that, they're okay. But and the Weather Channel one sucks. Don't use that one. That one, they're not even close. Like politicians.
Yeah, use the opposite forecast of those ones.
Pretty much. Don't listen to Jim Cantor. It's all BS. So following the weather probably is because that will dictate. We're an exterior-based, weather-based business, this industry. So that will make or break quite a few things because you can't even do estimates in the rain. A customer doesn't want to be standing in the doorway and wind's blowing in and what have you. So, I follow the weather. Also, too, the second part of that is with the weather, I pay attention to the news. 2 reasons. One, because I'm looking for a reason to turn my brain off and think about something mindless, right? Where I don't think about work, kind of get the refresh and all that. But 2, I want to be able to engage with my customers. So when they talk to me about topics or whatever, we're making a small conversation, I'm always up to date on the news, what's going on, stuff that's happening right now in Ukraine or the stock market or whatever, and I try to hit all different avenues, no matter what political party it is, whether it be national or local news. I'm always trying to be on the up to up, again, so I can engage with the customer. So when they do make small talk, they feel that kind of, you're not just a commercial cleaner, you have a little bit one-on-one.
Build that relationship.
And build relationships, and then it makes them, more adaptive to trusting your opinions on this. We should do this at this time. We should do this at this time right now. But this probably could wait till next time, or in the future we should do this. And then they get to trust you. Then it gets to the point where if they trust you enough, not that pricing isn't an issue, but they don't even care because they know that you're going to do a good job. You have their best interest in your heart. And, so that probably engaging with the customer, the weather that should be taken for granted, but engaging with the customer to be able to make small talk and all that was huge for me.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't, me and Tyler talked about this, if you just don't have that simple relationship building foundation, it's going to be very hard for you guys to survive.
Yeah.
And I get it in the beginning, you're a little nervous and you're so focused on your sales pitch, but before even focusing on your sales pitch, learn to build relationships, learn to be friendly with a customer, talk about things for a little bit amount of time. Don't go overkill, but learn to talk about things that have nothing to do with what you're there for.
Yeah.
Build that. Don't let them think like, or you're a used car sales guy showing up. This is what we do. This is why we're the best. It's like they're tired of that. From every industry, they get that.
Well, and it keeps you from becoming robotic with your sales pitch too, because if you're having that little bit of engagement in there, it's not the same thing. Here it is, and it sounds like, hi, my name is JR. I'm here to do this, this, and this, and it's going to cost this, this, and this right now. Yeah, I would say probably, having that engagement, it allows them to really feel comfortable, and, you can kind of move forward with your business a little bit better because they get that comfort level with it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. The one piece of advice I wanted to share from this takeaway when I was thinking about these questions was so many people in this industry like that sell courses that are trying to make a profit off of a new guy is they tell on their YouTube channel like, here's what you have to do to start a business, and it's like they name all these fundamental things that are required, like business license, insurance, and they go down this route of like literally how to, but that's not what's going to separate you. If you're just working a 9 to 5, and I hate to say it, if you're lazy, kind of stuck in that routine, and you take that mindset to a pressure washing business, you're going to fail because you're going to take the same habits. You need to have a shift of entrepreneurship before you think about starting stuff, because all these things that people name, it's like you have to do that legally no matter what.
Regardless.
It's not a matter of if you're going to survive or not. It's a matter of fact of those are just non-negotiables for you to operate your business.
Yeah, you could have Googled that.
Yeah. So the one thing that I want to take away from this question, one piece of advice that I wish more of you guys knew was before you even start, before you even think about starting, yes, all that stuff has to be done, but you need to, like you said, learn relationships. You need to understand that you're going to be putting in a tremendous amount of time. You're going to be going through seasons where you start this business and you probably invested, to you at the time, quite a bit of money. And it's going to be slow in the beginning. You're going to have to grind to really get those jobs. And if you're not used to that, it's going to take some perseverance, and you're going to have to push through a lot of hard stuff. And if you seriously ask yourself that question, am I willing to do that? And you're honest with yourself, that's going to help so much. Because I see so many people, I know how to do washing, I'm going to go start my own thing. Well, guess what? You don't know what your boss went through to get these jobs for you, to get these jobs lined up, how much money of percent is in your payroll. That stuff's a big, huge factor that you have to push through.
They're just looking at the money exchanging hands after the service being done.
And the labor side of things. And it's like, what makes a great business, like we've said before, if you're the best washer, if I'm the best washer, the best paver sealer, that doesn't matter. That's not going to make you survive. You want to be good at what you do 100%, but that doesn't make you survive in business.
The part they don't see is I'm sitting at my kitchen counter eating dinner with my laptop open, taking notes, refreshing myself from the day, and working on estimates and what have you. There's a lot more that goes behind it,
Correct.
Emailing my insurance broker and, working on all scenarios and all aspects of the business,
Absolutely.
We got March 15th coming up. We got business tax. I ain't even started opening up any of that stuff yet. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks I can get all that dialed in. Otherwise, JR's filing for extension again. So, that there's that. And then, the spin-off of that too is probably, with that the next best thing that I would say, the second part of that is learning the network, the network part of it. You're not necessarily like working with your competition in a sense. You don't look at it that way. But if you guys can tackle multiple jobs together, everybody benefits from that, right? You're both you're mobilizing one time to do a big commercial job, or you have 4 roofs all in a row. You do these 2, you do these 2, and they were all your jobs, but you knocked them all out one day.
Yep.
Now you can move on to selling for the rest of the day.
100%.
So learning the network, and then also too, when you get jammed up, you have somebody that can come and back you up. Yeah, they might be showing up in a different truck that doesn't say RPW down the side of it, but you have, and then same thing too. When you get busy, you have somebody to come back you up, and then they do the same thing for you. So networking was probably the second part of that.
I forgot who I heard this from, but competition happens at the bottom, collaborations happen at the top.
It's great. I like that.
And it's so true because, like we've talked about, the guys that are stinky down here and don't want to talk to anyone and don't want to do business with anyone, it's your loss.
Sure.
You're missing out on opportunities.
Yep.
You're missing out on relationships. You're missing out on money.
Yep.
You're missing out on so much stuff by just thinking that you're going to take on the world and only your business is going to be at the top in this area. That's never been the case. It never will be, especially in this industry and service industry. There's not one company completely dominating in any area, really, unless it's just a small town. But in big cities like we're in, there's going to be a few guys that figured it out, and you might as well collaborate with them. That's going to wrap it up, you guys. I've got to jet. I want to ask you any more advice before we take off?
Stop watching this podcast, get to work.
Yeah. Make sure you finish the episode first, then get to work. Thank you guys for joining. If you found any value, please hit the thumbs up. It lets YouTube know that we make cool content. We are the leading podcast in the pressure washing space. We put in a ton of effort to make these videos for you guys. We try to have top tier production. Ultimately, all of this is just to transfer the knowledge to you guys. So hit the thumbs up, subscribe on the way out. As always, Wash Fam, much love. We will see you in the next video.
Appreciate you, brother. As my boy Carlos Gonzalez would say, wash on.
Yeah, wash on. JR's got the leading podcast, you guys. Got the best one with the most views, most interactions. So if you think you can beat him, hit me up. We'll get on a podcast.
I challenge you.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a little interview, see if we fit, and then we'll go from there. But he's got the crown for now. Peace out, y'all.